Aloha and welcome to True Story with Lori, where we talk to people that are pushing through something. And I'm so excited about my guest today, Mitos Suson. Her book is A Doorbell, a Dictator, and a Dad, a daughter's memoir of life and family under Marcos's martial law. It was by Mitos Suson and Darby Lee Patterson. And there it is again. Marcos's martial law is referring to President Marcos in the Philippines, kind of back in the 70s. So welcome, Mitos. I'm so glad to have you.
Aloha. I'm so glad to be here and thank you for doing this.
Yes, yes, of course, my pleasure. So I want to just kind of start off a little bit more towards the end of your book because I was kind of blown away by your lifestyle. Because the only way I could like put it together in my mind when you were younger, before 1972, we'll get to Christmas 1972, but I mean I could really only think of it as like a lifestyle of the rich and famous. I mean, very very kind of opulent in my mind. So talk a little bit about what it was like growing up before that fateful Christmas.
Well, I was 12, so I didn't really feel it, you know, that lifestyle, that only when much later when I look back, then, oh my God, that's how we lived before. But when we were kids, and I saw my father like once or twice a year because he was so busy. So, and I always thought that that was the normal way. I was surprised that people really saw their father, like their father lived with them,
Yes.
and my father was all over. So it was just like in retrospect that, oh, we had this before, but life is different now. Like
Yes.
after,
So when you were younger growing up, it was just your life, like the mansion, your big house that was featured in an architect magazine, and the
yeah,
the
yeah,
pool, the tailored clothes, and
yeah.
kind of
I thought it
the
was normal.
pardon.
I thought it was normal. Like we all
Yeah, okay. So you didn't like really think like this is how you live, but so kind of it sounds like really instead of being able to enjoy that somewhat opulent lifestyle, you more so missed your dad because he was gone traveling on business and just building a business, the big construction business. So that's how it kind of affected you a little bit more as a young girl. You just really would have preferred your dad to be home and
well, we were taken care of really well, but when they were gone, because when my dad was arrested, then my mom had to go to Manila, and then we practically grew up like orphans, that we
right.
were just ourselves, and that was strange, and there was just so many people coming in and out of the house, and I didn't know them were just faces to me or ghosts to me. So
Yes. So you basically went to this kind of privileged lifestyle, and then on Christmas Eve of 1972, uh, a close family friend knocks on your door. You think it's going to be carolers because you're used to that. People came to carol at your house. But you open the door and it's not carolers, it is a family friend. So tell us about that night and what happened.
yeah, so it was weird. There's this military man came, but then we knew my uncle. It's like, why is he in uniform with all this military man? Like he hangs out with us all the time. He's there all the time, eating with us, making jokes, and then why is he here? So that was really that puzzled me for many years
Mm-hmm.
until I spoke to my dad many years later. Why did he arrest you? He was your friend, So then I think my family already had an idea that it was gonna happen,
Okay.
you know. But I had no clue, because I was just 12. I didn't
Yes.
see the connection. And then everybody was that night. I mean, my father always called it ASO, arrest, search, and seizure order,
Okay.
ASO, without warrant, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that was when martial law was declared in September. They already were starting to arrest many people, including my father's friends. So we knew that eventually they were gonna come to get us. Like we just don't know what day. You know, my father still like was denying it. Like his friends were already saying, "Okay, let's run, let's go to the U.S. or let's do this, let's run." And he was like, "Oh no, they won't arrest me. I'm nothing. I'm nobody. I'm not like like one of those big shot politicians. I'm just an engineer. But
Yes.
they did that to him too. Yeah, and
Yes. Yeah.
yes,
So the military man and your close family friend, I mean, you called him an uncle, kind of considered him like an uncle. They come and they get your dad, and it was part of the NBI, National Bureau of Investigation, like our FBI here. But President Marcos had instilled a martial law because he was going for this kind of new order in the Philippines. And so as soon as he came in and did this martial law, he started arresting the opposition, people that were opposed to him. And
yeah.
your father, being a well-known businessman and had government contracts and stuff, opposed the new order. And so that's how your father kind of got on his radar, and your father's friends, in all of that, because they were the opposition, right?
Well, the guy who ran against President Marcos
Mm-hmm.
for 1969, there was an election, and it was Osmania ran against President Marcos. That was his like best friend, so they were buddies.
Yes.
So and they were always together. So it was this, they
Mm-hmm.
arrested the entire party if they could. The entire like liberal party or like it's a Democrat party. They were all
Yes.
arrested. So
Yes, because Marcos wasn't going to have any opposition against him. He was taking care of it kind of systematically. But your father was involved politically. I mean, there was the government contracts and the politics that go with that. But he did run for Congress as well, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he did. I think he ran for like for the North. He did run for Congress once and he lost. But he was a guy who was already against a guy who is really still famous. I mean, uh, politically strong right now, and I think he just did it for as a favor for his friend Asmenia because
Okay.
everybody was scared of this guy who was a
Yes.
warlord. And, I remember like bodyguards and guns, all that growing up like this. So his friend said to him, "Why don't you just run?" And then he was like, "Okay, what the heck?" But he really was just interested in business. His
Yes.
mind was like, "Okay, I'll get a contract out of this." But he wasn't really well. He was a politician too, but you know
Yes. Just
the how it
kind
came
of.
to be.
Yeah. And so, even though your father was a well-known businessman and involved in politics a little, he never thought that he needed to run. He still thought that he wasn't like in that really upper echelon of the
Yeah.
people that Marcos was targeting. So they come on Christmas Eve of all days or nights of the year.
Yeah.
You're 12 years old, and you see them take your father for what appears to be no reason. I mean, they're just going to go have a chat. They say, but that's code, right? For it's your turn, and so your father just like that gets whisked away
Mhm.
from your home in
Yeah.
and initially because you were in and I meant to ask you how to pronounce you were in Cebu. Is that how you say that? So
Yes,
you were
yes.
on the island of Cebu. They
Mhm.
came and got your dad and whisked him away to Manila, right? To Marcos's, I'll just call it a compound. I don't know what it would be. And he stayed.
Yeah.
He stayed there. So basically, he was detained.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Political. Yeah.
So he was politically detained and held. at Marcos's compound for a while, but then was kind of transferred to what would have been more like a real prison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And so, just kind of what the culture was back then, and I'm maybe even still today, it was right for your mother to move essentially to Manila to be closer to her husband.
Yeah, so she can do the visits and all that, maybe once or twice a week. They were so very strict with that time.
Yes. And so all of a sudden, I know your mom, it wasn't like your mom was gone the next day, but soon she got a
Mm.
place in Manila. And so your mom was gone too. Um,
Yeah,
right,
that's
right.
how it started for us.
Yes. And so what was that like? You're 12, you're like a tween, you're going into your adolescent years.
Yeah.
And so once your both of your parents were gone from the house, like what happened? What became of everything?
Well, at first I was like really happy. My father was so
Woohoo!
strict. I was like, yeah, ooh, yay. But then later on, it got old because you went to the house. I mean, we were still like in a situation where we still had a house and we still had food. But it was like you went home and there was nobody there. So there was a helper who cooked, and she just put the food there and then clean it up at the end of the day. And
Yes.
then yeah, it was just strange.
Right.
And
So
then
you,
with the flow and understanding.
yeah. And so basically the opulent lifestyle was gone.
Mm,
You had nannies kind of in and out, so it seemed like there were strangers coming
yeah.
in and out at this really tough time of life, and you weren't kind of really being cared for. One of the things that you said that I took a note on, hopefully I can find it real quick. Here it is. Oh, okay. So after your father was arrested, and this is all in the news and everything. People, of course, found out about it at school, and you were at a Catholic school, and you started to be bullied. Because your family, in some people's minds, turned out to not be what everybody thought it was, or your father anyway. And you said that you felt drenched in shame. This is what you wrote. I felt drenched in shame and wanted to die. Um, because your life had changed so drastically. I mean, what was that like at school?
It was like you would hear whispers. They're talking about you.
Yes.
And yeah, and I don't know. It was just weird. I didn't want to go back to school.
Yeah.
You know.
And so you just kind of had like an empty feeling. You said that you developed deep insecurities kind of around the
Yeah,
people bullying, and so now you're having to deal with that as well. Um,
it was very direct, but they were talking about it because it was really like headlines. So everybody knew, and my father was really mentioned, and my father actually was really told us and was really worried about it too. But we could hear it like very indirectly, that
yes. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
had body odor or you had bad breath.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The kids being kids, really. Another thing that you wrote that really struck me is your house had a wall of windows. It was like a glass wall or glass doors. And there was a big, you had an 8.0 earthquake. That's so
Yeah,
huge. And shattered the glass. And so you thought it was, you felt like people could see in, felt like people could see the misery inside your house, and that the shattered glass was a metaphor for being broken and hopeless because you didn't have anybody to turn to because your mom and dad were gone, brothers were out elsewhere, and that, so it must have been really lonely.
yeah. It was, but I couldn't even understand it. It was like it's like you just you got these messages from the universe like deal with it. That's the fate you
Oh,
got.
That's
So
just what they say, deal with it.
I cannot say that, but that was like the way it is. What can you do, you know?
Yes,
So
yeah, yeah.
deal with it. But the thing was that was so weird was we were all dealing with it in our own way. So I didn't really even like talking to my brothers or sisters
Mhm.
after out we're done. Then we just like went to our own rooms and didn't talk. You know, so it
Yeah.
was even harder. You know.
Yeah, it sounds so so isolating. Like you everybody just kind of isolated rather than coming together during
Yeah.
that point. Um, but and you had said earlier that you really only saw your dad um, twice a year because he was gone on business, and then it came out that there was other women, but a really sweet and tender thing happened. I thought, oh gosh, while he was in jail, you started writing letters back and forth. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, he was like my pen pal. It was like it was like a new relationship. Suddenly he saw me because he had 7 kids and probably other kids
Hmm.
outside.
Hmm.
So suddenly he recognized me or saw me. I mean, they used to tease us that I was like his daughter or daddy's girl, but it was different when he started to write to us. Then it was like, yeah, it was really nice. Like,
Yeah. So it kind of, even though he wasn't there physically, it was like you were getting to know your dad, like for the
and
first time.
me too, because he really didn't know us, or he was so busy for anything.
Yes, yeah. And he was getting to know you. I just thought that was a really kind of tender part in this kind of whole mess, and a little silver lining that you
Yeah.
built that relationship with your dad, through letters. That was just really sweet. And so while your mom was in Manila and your dad was still being detained, um, the business had all almost collapsed. I know it didn't go all the way to nothing, but there needed to be money made, and so that the rooms in the house would be rented out to different flight attendants and things, which I thought was smart. But now, as a young girl, though, you've got strangers in your house all the time. So what was that like?
It's so weird too. I always run to my neighbor's house because my neighbor was my cousins, and I would just hang out with them all the time. And I would go home and it's time to eat. But they were kind of like taking care of us, but not really. They were not officially assigned to take care of us, but
Mm-hmm.
they were just there, And so I always run there if I could. Like, if I could be there every day, I was like, adopt me, please. Home. These people, and I was also intimidated because they were also glamorous, all the stewardess. They were
Yes.
looking at those, and it was just
Yeah.
like I didn't feel like I was connected to them, but they were just there.
Yes.
So
Because
wild,
you're
but they don't.
right. Because as a young teen, you're figuring out body image and
Yeah,
physicality and all of that. And here are these glamorous flight attendants,
yeah,
stewardesses, coming in and out with their uniforms and their poise and all of that. And so that just kind of made you even feel a little bit worse about
yeah.
about your because your mom used to lighten you had like lightening creams or something for your face so that you wouldn't be so dark. Uh, and I like the way you said it. This is your words, so that your mom said you needed lighter skin to be more marketable for marriage. Yeah. So that's a tough thing to hear, but um, but another thing that happened, kind of while your dad was detained and your mom came back, was Christianity. Kind of came into the scene. And so did things change when your mom kind of started praying and going to church and going to the charismatic church?
Yeah. Yeah, she then it didn't change much, but I mean, she was again absent, because she had to embrace that she needed that, so I had to
Yeah.
accept. do,
Yeah.
so I as for a while I was just avoiding church because I felt like I was really like lump into it. Like we had to pray when my father was around. We had to pray every day, the
Mm.
rosary,
Mm-hmm.
start praying. Suddenly, when she was back, then she really like embraced the ministry, and then we really like it was kind of we were just finding our way to coming out of the teenager years, so it was
Yes.
never back like it used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had said at one point, I forget what the circumstances were, but you knew your life had changed, like
Yeah.
forever. The the parties, the pool, which that pool sounded awesome. Those things just weren't going to happen again, and so you had to figure it out. And so you do, but you're a little spitfire, and so you wanted to go to a certain college, and you graduate from college, and you're kind of finally like a free spirit, and um, meet another free spirit, and so what was that like? To just finally kind of be free, I guess, and started traveling and doing more of kind of what you wanted, or what you were chasing. What were you chasing or trying to find?
That was the problem. I didn't know. I didn't know. I was just chasing wind or chasing like running, and I
Yeah.
didn't know the problem because I didn't know what I was running from, or maybe I knew what I was running from, but I didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted out.
Yes. Yeah. And usually, if we don't know what we're looking for, we probably don't find it. We
Yeah,
just, yeah.
I just the
Um,
circle only.
yes, but I felt like, in the end, you did come full circle, moving back to Cebu, and um, kind of going home. So after all of that, that happened with your dad, and your parents had finally passed away. I know your mom passed away, and then your dad got religious, I'll just say, and then passed away. But you came home. So what was it, that you want? Why did you want to kind of go back to Cebu?
I felt connected. I just felt like I'm an island girl.
Yes.
From a country with 7,100 islands. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I was always longing for the sea, longing to come home, and I didn't really know what home was or where home was, but I just felt I had a different home. Of course, being still and being in one place, helped, and just
Yes.
like, coming into me, and now I'm in like in a good space right now. Like I don't feel like I have to chase the wind or run in circles.
Good. Good. So you've kind of found contentment and um,
Yeah.
fulfillment in all of that. Why did you feel you wanted or needed to write this story?
Well, I always wanted to write. I kind of just knew it that I was gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
writer when, but I felt like I needed to get this out of the way. So I could really write, So
Yes.
I knew this was stopping me. That there were so many just uh, things that were suspended in air, and so that helped me, sort things out in my life. And
Mm-hmm.
then I said, once I can get this out of the way, I can really write, get this
Yes.
off my back or get this off my chest,
Mm-hmm.
So that was important, more like a healing process for me and to sort myself out why things happen this way. So I had to go backwards,
Yes.
go home
Yeah.
and dance out of it. And also, it was also, I think I owed it to my daughter because I just took off, and ran away, and she didn't understand that either. I didn't understand that either, but it was like a very strong compulsion or urge, and that kind of
Yes.
helped. And also for my siblings, because we all had to deal with it in our own
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
So it was important for me to write this book, and also for my dad, for I felt like he was 4.5 years. They had no trial. He just sat there for 4.5 years. I felt like I have to give it a meaning or an honor. I have to honor him
Mm-hmm.
for this. I felt like this book had to be written. And then also I realized that at first I just wanted to write for my family or for my daughter, just give this as a gift to them, like,
Mm-hmm.
document what happened to my family. But I realized that there were so many millennials who were really interested in my story. So I was really surprised, like
Mm-hmm.
kids came to me and they were really curious about my book. They were really asking questions. And even a couple of kids I met, I mean, they're not kids now, but they're much younger than me. They were lawyers and they all bought my book. And I was really surprised. Like, what? You're interested in my book or my story? Apparently, they're like so lost because there's now a lot of disinformation
Mm-hmm.
about people who have the funds. They want to rewrite themselves in a better light, or say that it never happened. So I felt like, okay, now I'm more determined to put that book out and that this is my story, this is my truth, but it really happened. Martial law is not a good thing. It happened.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
sure, a lot of the younger people there are interested in that and don't know, they might not know somebody that actually went through it. And yes, I did want to mention that just as quick as your father was taken away, uh,
Yeah.
just like that, he was released after 4.5 years, like no questions asked, no nothing. Okay, you can go now, um, kind of thing. So that is odd, as well. So as we just kind of wind down here, is there any kind of last something you would want to say to the people listening about kind of overcoming hard circumstances, or
Just hanging in there.
first and
Hanging in.
foremost? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's like, sometimes you really don't know why you do things like this, and then it's like a big tapestry, and then suddenly you see meaning in everything that happened. And I didn't see it also before. And sometimes I question myself, why did this happen? Why did I do this? And then
Mm.
sometimes we're thrown into situations where we have no control, but they all had a meaning in the big universe.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So that helped me
So
a lot. And so for people who's like stuck, like just hanging in there, the meaning will eventually come out, or the
yeah.
purpose will show up by itself if you don't try too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
just go slow.
Yeah, just hang in there and go for the flow, because just trust that one day, um, you'll you'll figure it out and get the answers. And if not, I mean, that's okay. But we'll leave it with that. You just hang in there. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
kind of the bottom line, right? So I just want to just hold up your book one more time. A Doorbell, a Dictator, and a Dad. It's available on Amazon. It's a very interesting story about the time of martial law in the Philippines, where Marcos was basically detaining anybody from the political opposition party. And Mitos' story is very interesting and explains a lot of that and how her family handled it and the changes that they went through. So I encourage you to go get a copy of this book, because you will enjoy this story. So, Mitos, you hang around for a second, but everybody, thank you for listening. Mahalo, and I will see you next time.